Look dead straight into your bank account. Does it reflect the hundreds of books you've read? No, because the mindset that drags you out of poverty is the exact poison that will keep you from millions. Here is the brutal, uncensored roadmap to $10 million. Listen to me very carefully, because what I am about to say will completely shatter the comfortable little lie you have been living in. I know exactly where you are sitting right now. You look up at that heavy bookshelf of yours, or maybe you scroll through dozens of pirated PDF folders hidden on your desktop. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. You have devoured them all. You have underlined sentences in bright yellow, you have highlighted until the pages bled, and you have filled countless notebooks with supposedly life-changing quotes. But do me a favor. Look dead straight into your bank account right now. Does that pathetic balance reflect the thousands of pages you have consumed? The overwhelming probability is a devastating no. You are trapped. You are suffocating in a labyrinth of hollow advice, stuck in the agonizing loop of waking up for a soul-crushing job, coming home to mindlessly doom scroll, and feeling that cold sweat of panic every time the end of the month approaches. You keep reading to find an escape hatch, only to crash into a brutal, unspoken truth that no best-selling author has the guts to spit right in your face. Not every book prints money. And reading blindly, devouring pages without a ruthless strategy, is the absolute fastest way to become the most enlightened, philosophical, and utterly broke loser in the room. Welcomes you to the brutal reality of wealth creation. If this harsh truth resonates with the quiet desperation you feel every single night, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Your subscription is the exact fuel we need to keep delivering these unfiltered, life-altering blueprints. I am not standing here today to stroke your fragile ego or sell you false hope. I am speaking to you as a brother who has walked through the fire, someone who was once dead broke, foolishly believing in every piece of theoretical garbage out there, until I dug my hands into the dirt, bled, cried, and clawed my way up to a multi-million-dollar empire. I have personally thrown hundreds of useless books straight into the trash, those toxic fairy tales that teach you to just breathe deeply and hope the universe magically deposits a check into your lap. I have aggressively filtered, brutally extracted, and squeezed the absolute lifeblood out of the history of global finance and business to forge one singular, unbreakable roadmap. Exactly 40 legendary books, not a single wasted syllable. Think of this agonizing journey to wealth as a ruthless video game. You cannot drag the rusty beginner weapons from level 1 into the final boss fight of level 10 and expect to survive. At every single income bracket, from scraping your first zero to $100,000, from $100,000 to a cool million, and from 1 million to an empire of 10 million, the fundamental laws of money violently change. The exact mindset that successfully dragged you out of poverty to your first 100,000 is the precise poison that will paralyze you from ever touching a million. If you equip the wrong book, if you deploy the wrong mindset at the wrong stage of your financial life, you will financially bleed out on the battlefield. Today, we are tearing this entire roadmap wide open. I am going to force-feed you the exact psychological armor you need at the exact moment you need it to completely break the simulation of money. Abandon the pathetic concept of reading for pleasure right this second. From this very heartbeat forward, books are your lethal weapons, your ultimate cheat codes to hack the rigged matrix of the capitalist system. Lock in your absolute focus. The game begins now. To step onto this battlefield and actually survive, you must first acknowledge the brutal, suffocating trenches of absolute zero where you currently reside. When you have nothing in your bank account, the world does not care about your feelings, your big dreams, or your misunderstood genius. At this stage, you are entirely invisible to the marketplace. I remember exactly what it felt like to stare at a declining bank balance, eating cheap ramen at 2 a.m., feeling a toxic mixture of anxiety and deep self-loathing bubbling in my chest. You are in survival mode, and survival requires a level of primal violence that most people are too soft to summon. The absolute worst thing you can do right now is read books about passive income, diversified investment portfolios, or esoteric spiritual awakening. You have no capital to invest, and meditating on a mountaintop will not pay your overdue electricity bill. In Level 1, the only asset you possess is your raw, unpolished time and your physical endurance. The weapons you must pull from your arsenal are books that forge an iron mind and teach high-income active skills. You need the blueprints of relentless execution. At this stage, you must surgically remove the mind virus of the 4-hour workweek. That is a luxury for the victors, not a strategy for the peasants. You need the books that scream at you to wake up at dawn, to outwork your peers, to learn sales, copywriting, or coding until your eyes bleed. When I was in this phase, I threw away everything that preached balance. Balance is a myth sold to the middle class to keep them docile. I consumed manuals on human persuasion, aggressive sales tactics, and unbreakable mental toughness. You have to understand that getting to your first $100,000 is not about working smart. It is about working with such overwhelming brute force intensity that the universe has no choice but to yield to your will. You are going to face rejection that will physically hurt. You will pitch clients who laugh in your face. You will launch projects that generate 0 clicks. And you will have friends and family whispering behind your back that you have lost your mind. The psychological armor you need here is pure delusion mixed with unbreakable grit. The books you read must brainwash you into believing you are a conqueror, even while you are dressed in rags. You read to master the art of trading your upgraded time for larger and larger checks. You learn to sell, you learn to negotiate, and you learn to absorb pain without flinching. You do not stop, you do not rest, and you do not complain until you see 6 figures sitting in cash, cleared and verified in your checking account. That first $100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make in your entire life, because you are not just building wealth. You are violently murdering the lazy, entitled version of yourself to give birth to a completely new entity. Once you have clawed your way to that first 100,000, the brute force tactics that kept you alive will suddenly become the very chains holding you down. If you try to grind your way to $1 million using the exact same sheer willpower you used to get out of the mud, you will completely destroy your health, your sanity, and your business. I learned this the hard way. I hit my first 200,000 and I was working 19 hours a day, shaking from caffeine withdrawals, my relationships burning to the ground around me. I thought the answer was just to work harder. I was dead wrong. At level 2, the game fundamentally shifts from being a gladiator in the arena to becoming the emperor watching from the stands. You must stop being the operator and become the architect. The weapons you need now change drastically. You must immediately drop the hustle culture motivation and pick up the heavy, dense manuals of systemization, management, and scaling. The books that matter now are the ones that teach you how to clone yourself. You are no longer trading time for money. You are buying other people's time to multiply your own. This requires a terrifying psychological leap. You have to let go of your ego. You have to accept that an employee might only do the job 80% as well as you could, and you have to be perfectly fine with that, because that 80% is what buys back your freedom to focus on the macro vision. During this transition to the seven-figure mark, your reading must be ruthlessly focused on human psychology, leadership, and operational frameworks. You need to understand how to build standard operating procedures that are so bulletproof a teenager could run your company. I devoured books on organizational behavior and corporate structuring. I studied how the greatest founders in history transitioned from being lone wolves to commanders of massive armies. You will face a new kind of pain here, the pain of betrayal from bad hires, the agony of miscommunications, and the terrifying realization that your payroll is eating your profit margins. To cross the million-dollar threshold, you have to build a machine that makes money while you are sleeping, while you are sick, and while you are on a plane. If your business stops when you stop, you do not own a business. You own a gloriously stressful, high-paying job. The literature at this stage forces you to strip away your identity as a hard worker and rebuild yourself as a cold, calculating designer of automated cash flow systems. But crossing the seven-figure threshold forces you into an entirely new dimension of the game, where the mechanics of wealth require the cold, calculating precision of a master architect. Making your first million is primarily a game of offense, but scaling to 10 million is a highly sophisticated, high-stakes game of defense, leverage, and capital allocation. The air up here is incredibly thin, and the mistakes are catastrophically expensive. When I made my first million, I thought I was invincible. I thought I had cracked the code. Then, the IRS came knocking. A competitor tried to legally strangle me, and the macroeconomic landscape shifted overnight. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a matter of weeks because I was playing a level 3 game with level 2 knowledge. I was bleeding out because I did not understand the intricate webs of tax codes, legal structures, and asset protection. The books you equip for this boss fight are not found in the self-help aisle. You are now reading the dense, uncompromising texts of global finance, macroeconomics, historical wealth preservation, and ruthless corporate strategy. You must study how old money protects itself from inflation, lawsuits, and governmental overreach. You are no longer just managing employees. You are managing executives, directors, and complex portfolios. The psychology required here is one of deep emotional detachment. You cannot be emotionally tied to a specific product or a specific marketing campaign anymore. You are moving pieces on a chessboard, allocating capital to where it yields the highest absolute return, whether that is acquiring a competitor, investing in real estate, or liquidating an underperforming branch of your own empire. At this stage, your reading must give you the vision of a general mapping out a decade-long war. You study the principles of legendary investors and the biographies of titans who built generational wealth. You learn the language of bankers, lawyers, and elite accountants. If you step into this arena ignorant of these forces, the system will eat your $1 million and spit you right back down to the middle class faster than you can blink. This is where wealth is not just generated, it is fortified behind impenetrable walls. You must learn to think in decades, not quarters. You must master the art of leverage, using other people's money, other people's networks, and other people's technology to exponentially scale your net worth. The books at this level are your elite advisors, teaching you how to build an empire so massive that it becomes entirely self-sustaining, a fortress that cannot be shaken by the daily turbulence of the masses. When you finally stand atop that $10 million summit, looking down at the empire you have bled to build, you will confront the most terrifying final boss of all, yourself. I will never forget the day my net worth officially crossed the 10 million mark. I was sitting alone in a penthouse office, looking at the glowing numbers on my screen. I expected to feel a sudden rush of ultimate euphoria, a divine sense of completion. Instead, I felt a hollow, echoing silence. The brutal truth that hits you at this ultimate peak is that money, no matter how vast the sum, only solves money problems. It does not cure your internal trauma. It does not fix your broken relationships. And it certainly does not tell you what the meaning of your life is. This is the stage where the wealthiest men on earth often lose their minds, self-destructing through paranoia, addiction, or sheer existential dread because they spent their entire lives running from themselves. The weapons you need now are no longer about business, systems, or capital allocation. You have already won the capitalist game. The matrix is broken. Now, you must conquer the kingdom of your own mind. The literature you consume at this ultimate level shifts back to the ancient, the philosophical, and the eternal. You read Stoicism, you read the great spiritual texts, and you read the histories of empires that rose and fell. You read to understand your place in the vast, unforgiving timeline of human history. What is the legacy you are leaving behind? When your heart beats for the very last time, will your entire existence be reduced to a bank statement? Or will you have built something that truly echoes in eternity? At this stage, you realize that true power is not just having the resources to buy anything in the world. It is having the spiritual fortitude to realize you don't need any of it to be at peace. You use your wealth as a tool for massive, global impact. You fund charities, you build schools, you mentor the next generation of hungry wolves who are currently eating ramen in the dark, just like you once did. You read to cultivate profound wisdom, empathy, and a deep understanding of the human condition. This is the exact roadmap. This is the bloody, tear-stained, uncensored truth of the journey from 0 to 10 million and beyond. It is not a fairy tale, and it is not a weekend project. It is a lifelong war of constant evolution, requiring you to shed your old skin at every new plateau. If you are ready to stop playing pretend, if you are ready to pick up the right weapons and step onto the battlefield with eyes wide open, then lock in. The illusion is dead. Welcome to the real game. The journey from absolute zero to unimaginable wealth is not a linear path of simply working harder. It is a brutal, continuous process of shedding your former self to adapt to entirely new environments. At level 1, you must rely on sheer, unrelenting brute force, using high-income skills and an unbreakable mindset to claw your way out of survival mode. You must violently murder your own laziness. However, reaching level 2 demands a complete paradigm shift. The mindless grind that saved you will now destroy you, requiring you to step back, build automated systems, and become an architect who buys back time through delegation. As you cross into level 3, the battlefield changes again from pure offense to a high-stakes game of defense. Scaling to 8 figures requires mastering global finance, asset protection, and ruthless capital allocation, fortifying your empire against macro threats and legal predators. Ultimately, the final ascension forces you to face the mirror. You realize that money only solves money problems. Having conquered the capitalist matrix, your final boss is your own mind. True wealth transforms from glowing numbers on a screen into profound spiritual peace, existential meaning, and a lasting global legacy. To win this lifelong war, you must be willing to evolve, drop the weapons of your past, and adopt the precise tools required for the exact stage you are fighting in right now. Growth requires the continuous, intentional death of your former self. The exact strategies, habits, and mindsets that successfully propelled you to your current level will become the heavy anchors dragging you down at the next. You cannot play a level 3 game using level 1 weapons. True mastery is knowing when to let go of the identity that built you. Audit your life and identify exactly which level of the game you are currently playing. If your bank account is empty, stop wasting time researching passive income or decentralized finance. Obsessively focus on active, brute force skill acquisition and relentless output. If you are earning well but burned out from grinding, swallow your ego. Stop trying to control every detail and start building standard operating procedures. Discard the habits and books that no longer serve your immediate next step, and strictly equip the specific knowledge designed for the exact boss fight right in front of you. Which of these 4 levels are you currently fighting in right now, and what is the biggest obstacle you are facing today? Please share your thoughts in the comments below so we can all learn and draw inspiration from each other's journeys. If you found value in this breakdown, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to keep delivering high-value, hard-hitting content just like this.